So what you're telling me, Doc, is that I got swindled.
Well, I don't want to say that, and I don't care what the breeder said, that is definitely not a Labrador Retriever.
It's no wonder I couldn't get this thing to fetch or roll over. That breeder must have been a moron. Hey, you're that dog trainer from TV, ain't you?
Well, yeah.
I bought your video.
Well, you did. Well, thanks.
Well, I got some news for you, mister. It don't work. Come on, Oswald, you darn moron.
Well, what did I tell you about finding a reputable breeder? Now, out of all the people that you go out and meet while you're socializing your dog, this man is going to be the most important. Actually, this is my doctor, Dr. Brett Deerdorf. How are you, doctor?
David, doing good.
And I want you to meet Aggie. This is her first time in.
Aggie. How are you
now,
doing?
you know, Brett has been my doctor now for about the last 6 years, right? Yeah, and I got to tell you, that appendectomy he did, but you can't tell that from the real article.
Healing up good.
Yeah, I'm gonna think about the neutering idea, and I'll let you know on that. But the most important part about socializing your dog, taking it to the veterinarian's office when there's nothing wrong with it, is so that the dog can get used to the doctor as being a nice guy, right?
Exactly.
You know, I've seen so many times where people actually are dragging their dogs into the vet's office because the only time they've ever come to see you is when the dog's hurt or it's in pain. And what does that do?
Well, the dog's already tense and scared, and then you bring him into some place that he's never been exposed to before, and that just heightens the situation. The owners get nervous, you know, Fluffy's sick or whatever.
Right.
And it just makes my job a lot harder to do.
And I can imagine having a dog, you know, let alone having a scared puppy on your hands, but when this dog gets up to, you know, 40 or 50 pounds, or you get one of these big German Shepherds and it's scared to death, it may be fatally ill, and you're trying to treat it, and you can't treat it because it's, you know, it's so afraid and it's trying to bite you, maybe.
Sure.
So.
There have been a number of dogs that have come in that have just been too unruly for me to really even work on without, you know, muzzling the dog or using some kind of drug on him.
And sometimes when minutes count, that can cost a lot.
You bet.
Let's talk about what we need to do for the first 6 months of our puppy's lives.
Okay.
Right now, what we're doing today is, I'm just going to call this a social visit. I want to schedule a visit to come into my veterinarian as soon as I get my puppy, to let the puppy get acquainted with the staff, and, you know, when we get in the exam room, you can have the veterinarian give the puppy a treat. Going to the vet should be fun.
It should be. It should be a fun time for the family to come in, bring the kids.
And and they do that deal with those thermometers, which looks like a real rot, you know.
Later on, David.
Yeah, well, anyway, so what we're going to do now is when we come in for the social visit, what are we going to do? We can say hi to the dog, get acquainted with the staff, but what's the very first thing that we want to do medically when we get a new puppy?
Well, first off, we want to find out what's been done with the puppy in the past, whether the breeder has had the dog in for vaccinations, whether the dog's been checked for worms, give him a good physical, make sure that he looks like he's healthy, that there are no problems that we need to really pay particular attention to immediately.
A lot of people think that worms are something that are few and far between, but you know, you have to realize with a puppy, these are just a fact of life almost.
Sure. Yeah, probably somewhere around 90% of all puppies have some kind of intestinal parasite.
Right. And if you let the dog grow to adulthood and you've never had it in the vet, chances are you might already have worms.
Sure. Exactly.
So you need to get that checked right away, and that's something that you need to kind of keep checking on periodically. Now, if we were getting a car, they have these scheduled maintenance routines. You bring it in after so many miles. What's our scheduled maintenance routine with our new puppy? We want to bring it in as soon as we get it, check the vaccinations from the breeder, and we maybe need to update those right away. And then, let's say we've got an 8-week-old puppy. When's the next time you're going to need to see him?
Well, a lot of it depends upon what vaccinations that puppy has already had, and typically your veterinarian will tell you exactly when to bring him back for the next visit. It's usually every 3 to 4 weeks as that puppy is growing up until they get to be about 4 or 5 months of age.
Now, the other thing we wanted to talk about is feeding schedules. Now, I'm someone who doesn't advocate what they call free feeding. That's where you just pour a bunch of food out in a bowl and let the dogs eat it whenever they feel like it. The dog needs to digest food before it adds a bunch more on top of it and starts the process all over again. So what's your recommended feeding schedule for a puppy? I know it's going to be different when the dog grows up, but what is it going to be for the first 6 months?
Typically what I do with a new puppy is to feed that puppy a good puppy food twice a day, morning and night, and give him about 10 to 15 minutes to eat. and let them eat all they can during that period of time.
Right, and then you want to take the food back up.
One of the things that happens, you got small children around a new dog, and kids are into everything. They see the puppy eating, and they go up and they like to grab food away. Well, that's kind of an aggressive thing to do for a dog. You're stealing his food. So what I recommend doing, feed your dog about half what you normally feed him, and then give your child a little bit more food, or do it yourself and walk up and then add food to their bowl. Then your dog starts thinking, hey, everybody's going to bring me new food or bring me more food, and so the dog starts being less protective around the bowl when other people or children are around.
Now, doctor, we talked about breed preference, but what about the difference between male and female? What are some of the advantages or disadvantages?
Well, I've had them both, and both of them have their strengths and weaknesses. Male dogs, you know, one of the things that I don't like about male dogs is hiking their leg on everything that doesn't move.
Right.
I think they may be a little more protective in some situations, so you've got advantages and disadvantages to both.
Now, the other thing we have to do is what? What else?
Well, we want to check. We want to check that we get these dogs on a heartworm prevention. Heartworms are very common, more common in different parts of the country. There are heartworm prevention pills or chewables that you would put your dog on to prevent that disease. Some of those pills also prevent and treat the intestinal parasites that dogs get. I think another big issue for a lot of pet owners is we need to talk about spaying and neutering your dog.
Right. Now, what dog is a candidate for being spayed or neutered?
We usually spay them right around 6 months of age. If you wait too much longer than that, they go through a heat cycle and you have to deal with all those problems. So typically get them at right about 6 months.
Now, I saw a guy coming out of here that, you know, if you're just going to buy a pet from a breeder and you're not going to plan on breeding it, I mean, you should just have the dog neutered as a matter of principle.
Sure. They make a lot better pets for you.
And you let the professionals handle breeding, and that's what, you know, that's what's going to get you the good dogs out there in the general population, instead of ending up with something like, you know, your friend about here.
That's right.
Okay? Some things just should not be allowed to breed, and that's all I'm going to say. All right?